Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. Let's hit it. We're going to be talking about, well, we're actually going to, look, we've got some breaking news. We've got some breaking news for a start, coming in from James Ducker in the Telegraph. Showdown talks. In the red corner, Erik ten Hag, and also in the red corner, Jadon Sancho, but they're in opposite corners, they're not in the same corner, and maybe Jadon Sancho wants to go to a different coloured corner, maybe wants to be in the blue corner, or the yellow corner of Dortmund, I don't know, but the showdown talks are taking place tomorrow, and look, who's going to win? It's like a fight. You've got Jadon Sancho, who's still got that belt round his chest, which is the tweet that he's not deleted, and then you've got Erik ten Hag, who's got a bigger belt round his chest, because he's the boss of Manchester United. They're going to meet in the middle. Two people collide. Who's going to win? We'll talk about this because they are going to hold showdown talks tomorrow. Well, what will they be thinking tonight? Where's it going to go? Keep or sell? We'll talk about that in a minute as well. We've already got a poll going on at the moment in relation to who you'd like to see play at right wing. Pellistri at the moment, although it's been spelt wrong, I think you know who we're talking about. Pellistri at the moment, you've got 4 options to choose between: Mount, Pellistri, Sancho and Bruno. It's not Jadon. Let him speak, Simon. Jadon, it's not looking good, my friend. It's not looking good. 12%. You're behind Mason Mount, Jadon. How bad? I tell you what, if you're ever going to clip me up for anything, clip this, because it's actually football related. So we're doing a poll of who should start on the right wing from Manchester United. The United Stand, the biggest Manchester United fan community in the world. We've only had about 3,000 votes. I'm sure it'll go up as the show goes on. But who should start on the right wing now that Anthony's not playing games? Watch the video from earlier. In last place, Bruno, 4%. We want to play him as a number 10. In second to last place, Sancho, only 13%. Second place is Mount with 24%. Pellistri, 60%. Jadon Sancho is third place. I think that's a message, Jin. I think it's a message. But before we get into all that, let's start off with some breaking news. Come out this afternoon from the Telegraph. James Ducker, good journalist, Man United correspondent. I think he does other stuff, but he does a lot around Man United. He's certainly not, a headline grabber in relation to clickbait or anything like that. And when he speaks, you probably 80% listen. I'm sure James would love that, but nobody's 100%, James. Come on. Nobody's 100%. No one's perfect. He says Jadon Sancho is set for showdown talks with Erik ten Hag tomorrow amid serious uncertainty over the England forward's future at Manchester United. Ten Hag is now due to speak face-to-face with Sancho for the first time since the public outburst that infuriated the United manager and cast fresh doubt over the player's long-term future. Some sources at Old Trafford seem doubtful there is a way back for Sancho under Ten Hag, even if an apology is forthcoming. Ten Hag is known to be a disciplinarian and doesn't take these things lightly. He's been undermined. He has been, ridiculed in a sense, in a professional sense. So I suppose the big question is whether, where do we go from here? What about a possibility of Anthony? Says Rebel. Well, the Saudi Arabian window is not even open at the moment. So it's interesting that that's coming in from the Telegraph. Have you seen the statement from TRA? Says True Method. I do want to talk about that. I do want to talk about the sale a little bit later. So we will go into that as well. So thank you very much for bringing that to attention, because that is something we're going to talk about a little bit later in relation to the sale of the club. But I want to start off with this. Hi, Mark. How are you? It's simple. Many players are overpaid with no game. My daughter's only 8 but thinks Mason the flop Mount, have a great evening. Okay, says Rajiv. Okay, didn't add a lot to the show, Rajiv, but well, you're all welcome. So yeah, look, let's just talk about this first of all. Showdown talks tomorrow. I don't really know how it works at Manchester United, because effectively, as Jadon Sancho just had a week off, then it's a weird thing. I don't really take a lot of notice of it in relation to how it works with the international break, because obviously you've got a lot of United players who are internationals. They've been away for a week. But my assumption was that the rest of the players that aren't internationals would be in all week keeping their fitness up. It seems stupid 4 weeks into the season to have a week off. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how Jadon Sancho and Ten Hag won't have crossed paths for a week. Maybe Ten Hag's had a week off. I don't know. But these talks tomorrow are going to be really interesting. And it's interesting that the Telegraph are saying that some people are saying that they don't really see a way back for Sancho, even if he apologises. All I can speak is my opinion on this. If I was the manager of the club, I'd have spent probably the last 7 days angry, looking at Twitter every hour saying, he's still got it up, it's still there, he's still not deleted it, go to bed, it's still, wake up in the morning, it's still there, bloody still there, he's not deleted it, he's still not deleted it. So I think that it can only add to Ten Hag's frustration, because as we say, we don't need to read the statement out again, but effectively it does call Ten Hag a bit of a liar. So I don't know. I think Ten Hag will also be frustrated because obviously he's losing Anthony, and he'd go, Sancho's a reasonably good player. He should be stepping into this void. And I mean, I suppose it's the old Ollie adage, isn't it? When the going gets tough, Ollie gets rough, and he wants his players to get rough. And when Anthony gets suspended, Sancho steps up. That's what you would want to happen. But unfortunately, Anthony's been suspended, and Sancho's having a tantrum. So he's been let down by the mentality of a player that he actually needs to step up to the plate. So, I think it's going to be very interesting tomorrow. It's going to be, you know what I think this comes down to, talking about the ownership. I think this comes down to how much power Erik Ten Hag has got. Because you know United. I mean, look at Richard Arnold. Mason Greenwood's coming back a week later. He's not coming back. Are you going to suspend Anthony? We've got no comments. A few days later, we're suspending Anthony. So the leadership is weak, and it changes its mind day to day. So I just think that in Ten Hag's case, he might be saying, look, he's absolutely disrespected me publicly. He's undermined me. If I let that slide, that he's got to consider. The most important thing for Ten Hag is his stance, but it's also the rest of the dressing room. If he allows Sancho just to come back into the team, having undermined him and not deleted it, then it sends a message to the rest of the dressing room that you can get away with stuff. Now, a year ago, he sent a strong message to the dressing room that he'll get rid of the player of the year and the best player in the dressing room for the betterment of the team. Now, a year later, has he still got the power to do that? I think there'll be people in that club saying, Eric, we like you. You're doing a great job. We really like you. I'm smiling because I'm about to say something you don't like. We really respect you, Eric, and we really want you to be tough. But on this, please just let him play. He costs 75 million. He's on 300 grand a week. Nobody wants him. So, Eric, smiley faces, let's just grin and bear it. That's what we do here. We grin and spin, and we move on. It's called the grin spin. We pretend everything's good, and we spin. Come on, Eric. Why are you not angry? Why are you looking so angry, Eric? Why are you attacking me, Eric? Get off! I think that it'll be the grin spin that they ask Ten Hag to do, and it's going to be so interesting to see how it goes. The longer Jaden leaves the tweet up, the more baffling it becomes, says Alex. Who exactly does it serve to keep it up there? It's also unnecessary. I think that's a great point, Alex. I really do. I know it's only a tweet. I saw Adam talking about it as well on his tweet this afternoon. I absolutely am stunned that he's kept it up for that long. I mean, this tweet's got Viagra. It just won't go down, and I don't know why. I don't know why he won't take it down. It's weird. I actually felt sorry for you Saturday because your whole back five knew nothing about football, and the whole Sidemen team do football vids should have got Ben Foster to make it more. Nathan, you know what? It's all for charity, and at the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a great event. But I'd love to have a chance of winning, and I think that's what you're saying. We didn't have a great chance of winning, but it's the way the cookie crumbles. I take that first 45 minutes. They had to play counter-attack, park the bus. We played them off the park, and we just, unfortunately, things went wrong. It's just what can happen. It was a bit like Luton against Man City in the second half. Ten Hag is a bully, and when people push back, somehow they are in the wrong. He was unprofessional on multiple occasions and with no calling out for it. Mate, I don't know how to pronounce your first name, so I'll pronounce your second name. Marius, you are wrong. Absolutely wrong. How can the manager of the team be a bully, and how can the player have the right to go on social media? The player is a coward, for a start, because they've put a post out on Twitter instead of actually just knocking on his door and keeping it man to man. And that's not sexist. It could be woman to woman. But the fact is, Ten Hag and Sancho identify as men, so it's man to man. Sancho decided to sit on his phone and type something out and put it out. He's not spoken to Ten Hag for a week. So you call Ten Hag a bully, I call Sancho a coward, because he's done something that's disrespectful to this football club and posted it on social media. And ultimately, he should have picked up the phone and spoken to Ten Hag. This has happened to me in the past. I've had people do this to me, friends, people who work for you, friends, yeah. And then they don't know the full story. And then they get on Twitter and type something out about you. And you go, you know what? You know for a fact, all those people I've picked up the phone every single time. They might have started swearing at me, might have having a go at me, but I tell you what, I'll always pick up the phone. I don't do that. I'm not up for bitching on Twitter or social media. Pick the bloody phone up. You know, pick the phone up if you've got a problem with someone and have a chat. Don't start trying to win an argument by not doing it face to face. So you call Ten Hag a bully. I think somebody who goes on social media and posts something like that is a coward, because they should be having that conversation privately. And as the previous person said, who does it benefit at the end of the day? I put myself in Jadon Sancho's shoes. I understand the frustration. I would be sat there thinking I'm better than Anthony, Pellistri, Garnacho and Rashford. If I'm Jadon Sancho, you've got to believe 100%. I like the player. I do believe I'm better. But what purpose does it serve to put it on Twitter? What purpose does it serve at all? It becomes a public argument. It goes, you know, it demeans you. It demeans the fans. It demeans the club. It demeans the manager. Actually, he's ended up losing, as you can see from who you want to play at right wing. So he's lost anyway. If he was looking to win an argument, he's lost. The better thing to do was to get on the phone to Ten Hag and said, oi, I want to chat with him right now. And if he doesn't have a chat with me in the next 24 hours, I'm putting it out on Twitter. That's what I would have said. I'd have said, if he doesn't speak to me in the next 24 hours, I'm going to go on Twitter and say, the manager won't speak to me, so I've got to plead my case publicly. I wouldn't have minded that, but Ten Hag would have spoken to him and then you have the chat. That's where I think this has gone wrong. But also, if he'd had the chat privately and fell out with Ten Hag, which is what's happened anyway, public, they've not even spoke to each other, but they fell out publicly, haven't they? If they'd had a private conversation and fell out, then at least that wouldn't go public. That wouldn't go public, because Sancho would be like, or even if it did, he could deny it because it's coming in from a source. It gets his move in January. He's just damaged himself. He's damaged himself and the club and Ten Hag. And I just think, for what end? I don't really get it. I think it was just a quick, childish reaction that doesn't benefit him or anybody else. I actually felt sorry. Thank you very much, Nathan. Appreciate that. I think the Ronaldo FC fans are pouncing on the opportunity to call out Ten Hag. I don't think Sancho has done anything to qualify. He's calling out the manager. The boss needs to be able to do what's best for the team, says Carl. You know what? Breaking news. Manager says, I didn't pick you because I didn't think you were good enough in training this week. Oh, I bet that's never happened. In fact, Jim, what do you see? I tell you what, I see at Goldbridge. Slow sports news. Slow sports news. David Beckham, Leeds United, Elland Road, probably the early noughties. It's a Saturday lunchtime game. I'm ready for the game. The team news comes out. He's dropped David Beckham for Chadwick. What the bloody hell is he doing? It's a discipline issue. Simple as that. Great show, Mark. Top man. Been watching you since 2018. Aria from Houston, Texas. Thank you very much, Aria. Could Sancho be keeping the post up to really push through a cheaper transfer fee in the January transfer window so he can go where he really wants to, says Reese. Mate, if I'm Dortmund, Spurs or anybody else, I'd be interested in Sancho, but it's not going to do him any favours if he's making himself out to be, you know, inflammatory, is it? Andy says, I blame the club, Mark. Too much too soon for young players. They think they are something they are not yet. Need to remember who went before them, says Andy Cheetham. Thank you for all your hard work and the rest of the stand put forward. Really appreciate everything. Big up to the podcast being an absolute banger, says Reese. Yeah, big shout out to Goldbridge Saves Football Podcast. Still number 3 in the UK. Incredible, incredible. Keep giving it a listen. This week, I've got a really good episode coming out, actually. I'll tell you about it on Tuesday because it's not even out yet. So, look, let me just say this. There's a few things I want to talk about tonight, but look, if you're just tuning in a little bit late, James Ducker in the Telegraph says tomorrow is when Ten Hag and Sancho will have a chat. Where I'd probably come down on United's point, though, because there's always two sides to a story, and I think some people get lost in the fact that you can have your opinion, and you know my opinion. I back the manager, and I think Sancho's wrong to do what he's done. I don't think he's wrong why he's done it, but I think the way he's done it is wrong. I understand his frustration. I understand thinking you're better than players that are being picked ahead of you. Everybody's been there, but the public nature of posting it, I think, was wrong. Where I think United have got it wrong, though, is that why have you left it a week? You know, every day that post has been pinned on Sancho's Twitter is an embarrassment to the club, the fans, and the manager. So why leave it a week to have a face-to-face? You know, that tweet could have been down on Tuesday. You could have, Sancho's not playing for England and Ten Hag is not a national coach. So why have they not had a chat in a week? And again, in the long list of how Man United is run, and we talk about the way they've dealt with Greenwood and Anthony and everything else, transfers, the sale. This is just another, indication of evidence that the football club is not run very well. Because if I'm the CEO in this situation, United are so about PR. And if Sancho's going to stay, every day he keeps that tweet up, he's damaging his reputation with the fans. We've seen what's happened with the Harry Maguires and the Paul Pogbas in the last few years. You damage your reputation with the fans, you're not going to get it back. It's not, this fan base isn't like that. I don't think any fan base is like that. They don't just go, oh, it's okay now, everybody like him. They don't. The damage gets done. And from Man United's point of view, if you're thinking there might be a way back for Sancho, then from a PR point of view, you need to make people like Sancho. So the sooner you get this resolved, the better. And I don't understand why they've left it a week to sort it out. So tomorrow there will obviously be a chat. We will see what happens tomorrow. My thoughts are this. Hold on a minute. Sancho has always had an issue with authority going back to Dortmund, says the Inquisition. Once things are focused on him and his efforts, he lashes out. Welcome to the Members Club, Connor. Hi Mark, hope you're doing well. For watching from South Africa, says Regard. Thank you very much. Getting some lovely messages in from all around the world at the moment. And Ivan says, if I was a club, I wouldn't even buy Sancho on the cheap because these issues seem to follow him around from club to club. Look, locker room poison, says Ivan. Well, look, a lot of people are saying, what would you do, Mark, sell or buy? We've done this a couple of times this week. In fact, we did it this morning. We did a poll and it was about 67% saying get rid of him. So about 70-30. 70% saying it's time for him to go, 30% saying to stay. So, that can move. That needle can move. What do I think happens tomorrow? I genuinely don't know, and I don't like sitting on the fence, but I don't have any inside information on this, so I can't say anything with any strong conviction. But I'll give you two scenarios, right? One, I'm absolutely convinced, if you look at the Ten Hag we know, but also the Ten Hag we can easily evidence from the last few years at Ajax, I think that Ten Hag will want him gone. For two reasons. One, he will want him gone because he's absolutely disrespected him, and all Ten Hag was doing was trying to, improve him. And also, I think what a lot of people are starting to talk about as well is Ten Hag will feel absolutely betrayed. This is a player that last season, he let him have 3 months off to go and recuperate. Now, he probably needed those 3 months, but it's still unprecedented for a player not injured to miss 3 months of a season. So I think Ten Hag will feel that he's accommodated and worked hard for that player and had his back to be, end up with a childish tweet about him. I don't think Ten Hag will be, very, very happy about that. But also I think as well, on a purely footballing level, this ain't a first team player. I said it in the summer. A lot of people were saying they wanted Sancho to stay. I wanted him to stay. But I did say this. What's the future for Jadon Sancho? Because for 75 million and 300 grand a week, he cannot be a bench player. Like, his value in wages and what we spent, he can never be a bench player. Because you can imagine the press, 75 million pounds, 300 grand a week on a bench player. He's got to be a first team player. And I've always questioned where he gets into the team. So, and that's on Ten Hag's watch. Under Rangnick, Sancho has probably had his best month under Rangnick, if I remember correctly. So, look, I think Ten Hag's going to be massively pissed off and betrayed. And, I don't think he'll come back from that with Sancho. But even before all that, is Sancho a high priority player? You could argue even before all this, Garnacho was ahead of him, Rashford was ahead of him, and Antony was ahead of him. So at best, he was fourth choice winger. I don't logically see a way back based on the disrespect that Ten Hag will feel, but also the fact that he wasn't even a high priority winger for him anyway before all this. So I think the plan from Ten Hag will be to get rid of him. The reason it might not happen is it's September. It's not a transfer window. So what can you do with him anyway? There's not really anywhere for him to go. And I think most important of all, what will the club do? What will the club do? Because we've seen this before. Manager comes in, money is spent, authority is there, and then in year two, money isn't spent, authority is taken away. And I worry that Ten Hag will get overruled by people above him, and he won't be given the authority to get rid of him. So I don't know which way it's going to go, but I actually think, from what's come out from the Telegraph and, just putting two and two together, I think Ten Hag would want him gone. The most important thing as well is there is another side to this story. There's always another side to this story. And I'm sure if Jadon Sancho was watching this, he'd feel like it's a bit unfair on him. Well, maybe he should listen. I completely get Jadon Sancho's position. You know, I would be in the same position as him. No professional footballer should be happy when they're not part of a game like Arsenal. And if you think you have trained well, then of course you're going to be angry about it. But the bottom line is the manager's the manager. And, you know, I believe Sancho's a good player. Ten Hag doesn't rate you, get out of the club. And I think that's as simple as that. It doesn't always work out, does it? We've had loads of players at United we wanted to play, but the manager don't pick them and they get proven wrong on it. So I think the interesting thing will be is what does Sancho want to do? Because there's this assumption that Sancho wants to play for Man United. But you know, that tweet's been out for a week. Maybe it's out for a week because he doesn't want to play for Man United under Ten Hag and he wants to go. So we'll see what happens. I think the Ronaldo FC fans, I've done that one from Carl. Thank you for all the hard work. We've done that one as well. Thank you very much. So look, the next thing I want to talk about is who should start on the right wing. Now, Sancho's still in the equation, but as I said before, it's very, very low. There was 4 options: Mason Mount, Pellistri, Sancho and Bruno. We've had close to 10,000 votes, which is nearly all of you who are watching at the moment. So vast majority, 10,000 votes is a very, very good demographic sort of evidence. So you can still vote if you're watching live. But look, it's a landslide. It's 58% for Pellistri, 24% for Mason Mount, only 14% for Jadon Sancho to play on the right wing. And that would worry me if I was Sancho looking for a way back, because I remember in the summer, it was 50-50 whether to sell him when we did a poll. And we've done loads of polls on loads of players, so it's not victimising Sancho. You know, McTominay's had one, Donny had one, Maguire had one. But that's not good for Sancho. 14% of you want him to start on the right wing, and he's third choice behind Mount and Pellistri. I like the fact that Pellistri is the one. I think it could be perceived as a bit hipster. I'd go Mount, as I said. I did it on my Ten Hag best 11 yesterday. I think Mount is absolutely right to be there, but also I think I like Pellistri. You know I do. I think he's the only natural right-footed winger that we've got that goes to the byline and puts a cross in. Pellistri is a dream for Højlund or whoever plays up front. He's so unselfish. He's about creativity. I'd love to see Pellistri given that opportunity. Why do you go for Mount then? I'm not convinced that Ten Hag's a big fan of Pellistri. He was meant to be being loaned out. I don't know why he didn't get loaned out in the end. I think it was because of the lack of signings and a few injury problems. I just don't think Ten Hag rates Pellistri. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he is given the chance, but ultimately, logically, it probably will be Mason Mount. But having said that, I don't think Mount will be fit against Brighton. So really the options are Pellistri, Sancho or Bruno for that position. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting how it plays out. But look, most of you going with Pellistri, so I can't argue with that. But yeah, I would agree that based on what we've seen so far, Pellistri has had chances, so Ten Hag clearly likes him. But I think there's been, and I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on this, there's been plenty of times where Pellistri could have been brought on or Pellistri could have been started and he's put Bruno on the wing or he's put someone else on there. So, yeah. Mazin, shout out for you, mate. You could put Garnacho out on the wing. Yeah, you could put Garnacho on the wing. That's another option as well. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does because it's going to be a very difficult game against Brighton at the weekend. But I'm impressed. Smash a like for Pellistri on the video. I'm impressed that you've gone with Pellistri because, he's clearly a fan favourite. And I think that you need a winger that can create. And I like the way he goes to the byline. So, yeah, I'd be over the moon if he gave Pellistri chances. Anyway, this big news on the sale. Let's just bring this in because a lot of people have been talking about it, of course, and it would be remiss of me not to talk about it. So I sort of want to frame this in a way that is, important to sort of, because some of you might not have missed, some of you may have missed it, and effectively the situation is that there's been a few stories floating around about Man United and the sale today. A really odd story about how Liverpool are going to be bought by an American company which will be funded by Qatar. And from what I could gather, the Qataris are frustrated with Man United, so they're looking at another way to invest into the football club, into a football club, and that may well be through an American investment company. I call bullshit on that. I really, really do. I call bullshit on that. I don't think that's likely to happen. And of course, I think Qatari's money will be invested into a football club at some place. I think that makes complete and utter sense. But I don't, I think with the sales stuff, I'm sort of in that mode now where I'm like, I don't really believe a lot of stuff. I mean, we had the one a couple of weeks ago that the Glazers are going to stay. A couple of weeks before that, we had one that they're going to sell to Qatar in October. We get another story now about they're going to buy Liverpool through an American investment group, which doesn't really make sense because they could just buy it outright. I think and then you get a load of people getting really stressed and putting out posts about the Glazers and how vile they are and this, that, and the other. And I almost feel like going, it's not like people don't know. Like, the protests, the sit-ins, they're all amazing what they're doing, and they're not going to stop. And I just think this happens. A story comes out about the sale. The Glazers are staying. Qatar are going to buy another club. And everyone starts going, we've got to do more to get the Glazers out. And I don't think there's a hell of a lot more the fans can do. Like, everybody is behind it. And I don't think I think the cold, harsh fact is, we've never been successful at getting the Glazers out as fans because they're isolated in America and they just ignore it as long as the money's coming in through the door. But that doesn't mean that there aren't ways that might put more pressure on them. And obviously, as and when they come out, they should be shouted about and promoted, and the same with the protests, etc. But I don't think it does anybody any good every time a half-truth or fake story comes out to start going rah, 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 about the Glazers, because we've been doing this for a very long time. I still stand by what I've been saying for a while and what a lot of people have been saying, and even Gary Neville said it a few weeks ago. I'm absolutely convinced they're going to sell because logic, and I don't even get angry about the Glazers now. I just get tired of it. I'm tired of them holding us back, and I'm frustrated with the fact that a manager that did so well last year is basically having to put the handbrake on because they're bloody useless. And it's not just the Glazers, it's the people who they employ. But the fact still remains, for all this panic, and you'll always get this stuff, the Glazers are hanging on to the club because they're waiting for these big TV deals and a World Cup in America. And I'm like, these big TV deals, where are they? Where are these big TV deals? When you're talking about big TV deals, you're talking about the ability for Man United, and I'm all for this, by the way, the ability for Manchester United to own their own TV rights so that if you're not going to a game, you can literally buy the rights, a virtual season ticket where every game, home and away, you can watch Man United legitimately on your TV or your laptop or your phone, and you just pay United a couple of £100 a year, whatever it is. That will be a massive revenue stream for all the Premier League clubs. But it's not going to happen, is it? Because Sky have still got numerous years left on their contract, TNT, everybody else around Europe. I mean, look, there's some bloody European Premier League rights that run till 2025. So this new TV deal that the Glazers are going to make a load of money out, that they're holding out for, you're talking bloody 3, 4, 5 years away. The American World Cup, what's that going to do? They're going to get a couple of billion. No, they're not. That's not happening until 2026. So I just think that all this scaremongering about the Glazers staying, when you break it down, Old Trafford, go and visit it if you can. It's rusting. It needs money spending 10 years ago, not 10 years time. The infrastructure at the club is crap. I mean, look at the women's team. They're forever losing their best players to Arsenal and Chelsea because United are crap. They're run badly. Look at what's going on with the men's team. Look at the summer transfer window. Look at the start of the season on the pitch. I think it's a myth that the Glazers can hang around for a few more years. I just don't see how they do it. They are broke. The club is broke. The club needs money spending on it. They are going to sell. The thing for me is I just don't know when they're going to do it. Could be next week, could be next month, could be February. I don't know when, but I'm absolutely convinced that they'll sell the club in the next 6 months because nothing's changed. They put a statement out nearly a year ago saying they were looking at opportunities for sale or investment, and that was because they're bloody broke. So I'm not actually concerned about, some Qatar are going to buy Liverpool through some American company, or the Glazers are going to hang around for a big payday. I'm not saying that they wouldn't sell it to Sir Jim and keep hold of 50%. That's always been an option, of course. But they're going to do something. Whether we like that something, agree. Look, that's a different argument. But the Glazers staying in their current regime, in their current 100% ownership or whatever they've got at the moment, no, I don't see it. Rashford on the right, Garnacho on the left. That's how Ten Hag ended against Arsenal, says Tabib. And thank you for all the hard work. I've done that one. Keep doing that one. Good comment coming in here. I don't know whether I can read it out. Not now, Dave says, not enough fans are protesting. That's why it makes no difference. Don't go to games, buy merch. If no one buys shirt, Adidas will be annoyed. You've just asked for something that's impossible, though. And the great thing is, the people who organise the protests and any other fan group have always been very consistent on this point, and they're absolutely correct. These fans who come up with these mythical ways of getting the Glazers out don't understand real life. Maybe you've been to Old Trafford, maybe you haven't, but if you go to Old Trafford, you are never emptying it. You are never emptying Old Trafford. It's not going to happen. You are never going to stop every single Man United fan from buying a fucking shirt. And these people who come up with these ideas, we should all actually call their bluff one day and say, right, we're all behind you, you organise it. And they'll go, no, it's just my idea, you lot organise it. And then the people who can organise it don't organise it because they know it won't bloody work. I mean, have you ever heard of something so ridiculous? We should empty Old Trafford and not buy anything from Adidas. Oh my God. Look, it's the same principle as, have you ever been to the gym in January? It's bloody packed. It's packed with people who've had too much to drink and too much to eat over Christmas, and they're like, new year, new me. And they're down the gym 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, and you can set your clock by it. You go back in February, March, and it just dwindles off because humans are stereotypical. We have these habits. We set these things that we're going to do, and it just disappears. It's the same principle as the January people in the gym who are not there in March as saying, let's empty Old Trafford. People won't do it. What happened in the last game? Stay behind for an hour. Loads didn't do it. Loads did. Legends, but loads didn't do it. You cannot force people to do things when you're protesting because you're meant to be in it together. How can you be in it together if you call people out and tell people and order people to do something? It's just people are different. It's just diversity. Some people will be there for their first time. You know, it's a pilgrimage. Some people will not even be United fans. They'll be tourists. Some people will be corporate. Some people will just be like, I really do not want to protest. It won't be that important to them. And it's the same with kits. So this whole let's empty Old Trafford, let's stop buying kits, it's never going to happen because everybody's different. And of course, the people who do it are legends, and you know they should be shouted out for that. Of course they should, but not everybody's going to do it. And I suppose the interesting thing is, would an empty Old Trafford and everybody not buying Adidas clothing get rid of the Glazers? Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would. But it ain't going to happen because it's virtually impossible to do. But I don't think we need. I really do think people are overreacting. I really do not think that. I'm absolutely adamant that the Glazers will sell because they have to sell. But the Glazers said they were looking for investment and were willing to listen to sale offers, says Mikey, and I think they will. I really think they will. Look, there ain't no part of me that thinks that they'd love to stay. Of course they would, but I think they've backed themselves into a corner. Do you know about 100,000 signatures which can get the UK government involved? Also not sure if they can do anything. Yeah, the government won't do a shit. They won't do anything. 100,000 signatures would be a piece of piss for the United fan base, but they won't do anything anyway. It's like telling people to go to the gym when they're on holiday. It won't happen, says Loza. Mark, and probably half football fans don't have an interest on or understand ownership and influence it can have on the football itself, says Dewey. You know, on the kits as well, like, my nephew loves Rashford, loves football. He got a brand new kit for his birthday in July, and when he came round the house, he was like, look at me in my Rashford kit. Are you telling me that, you know, he's not allowed to buy a kit? this is what I mean. It's silly. And the great thing is, the people who do the protests and everything else, they also know that as well. You've got to live in the real world. Hi, Mark. Man United should be made a TV soap. Would be better than Dream Team and Footballers' Wives put together, says Daniel Jetta. Let's get back onto the football, though, because I did read an interesting article this evening talking about the reinvigoration of Scott McTominay. He's scored some goals for Scotland. And it basically goes about, he's wrongly been castigated and, part of the McFred thing that wasn't his fault. He's been played as a number 6 and that's not what he is. And now he's flourishing in and blossoming in a number 8 position. And now we're seeing the real Scott McTominay. And I read the article and I went, you know what? All you needed to do was listen to the United Stand 3-4 years ago. I mean, I'm not a fan of McTominay, but I've always said he's much better in the opposition's penalty box than he is in ours. And he's much better in their half than he is in ours. I mean, look, we've watched him countless times as a number 6. I've never seen a number 6 who hides as much as him. He clearly isn't a number 6. And obviously, his best moments for Manchester United had been scoring goals, definitely. And obviously that's happened with Scotland. So absolutely no doubt about it that Scott McTominay for Fulham or West Ham would be a very useful player. But we're Manchester United. Do we need another number 8? Do we need another attacking midfielder? No, we bloody don't. So I reiterate what I said this morning. If Scott McTominay is no longer a number 6, and he never was, that was his only reason he was here anyway. If Scott McTominay is now a number 8, a box-to-box midfielder, well, Eriksen's better than you, Mount's better than you, Amrabat's better than you, and Bruno's better than you. And I think Mainoo's better than you. So there are 4 or 5 people ahead of you, mate. So I don't really get what he does other than move, and I don't really get why he didn't move. And I hope he keeps scoring for Scotland, because there's 3 international breaks between now and January, the last one being November. So as long as he can keep that juice flowing, then hopefully he can go and move in January, which is what the club are trying to do. One thing I will say about Scott McTominay is we can all assume that it's a lack of ambition why he's not left Man United and maybe just loves United and wants to stay here. But at least it's not been played out publicly. At least he's not come out and said anything publicly. So look, hopefully there will be an opportunity for Scott McTominay to move on in January, because I think he can do a job at a certain club in a certain position. Thank you for all the heart. I keep reading this same chat that won't disappear. Sorry about that. Eriksen got exposed every away game, says George. I mean, if you think Scott McTominay is better than Christian Eriksen, I can give you a list of other sports you should go and watch. Or maybe not sport at all. Maybe you can just go and watch a big, festering, steaming pile of shit, because that's what your opinion is. If you think that Scott McTominay is better than Christian Eriksen, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Loza said I would have kept Fred over McTominay. Yeah, I mean, I've got to admit I was a little bit perturbed by the comment that McTominay was unfairly associated with the McFred thing. I mean, yeah, I'm never. I'm blocked by both of them on social media anyway, boo-hoo. But the reality is, if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely choose Fred. I think Fred's limited, but offered more. McTominay, I think if he wasn't a youth player, wouldn't even be at United. But look, I will say this. I've got friends who rate Scott McTominay, and I've still stayed friends with them. So that's, that says a lot. But when I say what is it about him, they always put him in the John O'Shea category, which again I think is really offensive. But what they're trying to say is he's a good lad to have around. He's passionate, and he's not a bad option off the bench for the last 20 minutes. Well, 2 things. One, you don't keep a footballer just because they're nice to have around. I mean, I'd rather have someone who's a complete tit as long as he's good on the pitch. And secondly, Man United should never have players on the bench who are good for 20 minutes. We need a bench like Man City, where it's like they should be starting. It's rotating all the time. But look, over the last few years, there's been times where McTominay is very good in the air. He will put a shift in, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's many people that. Probably Robert McCormack. That's about it. There's not many people out there that say, Scott McTominay should be starting games for United. And I think every player if you're going to be a Man United player, I'm sure it's the same at Man City. They're good enough to start for Man United, whether it's Akanji, Aki, not Calvin Phillips. But you know what I mean? They won't always start, but they're good enough to be starting. And I think with United, we've got too many players where you go, they're not good enough to start and they're sat on the bench. Locke says, if we sell Sancho and Scott in January, do we buy a centre-back? Good question. I think in relation to the centre-back scenario, it will end up being next summer now. I think, I mean, I don't know whether you saw Southgate's ridiculous comments about Harry Maguire. I mean, it was something along the lines of, you know, he plays well for us and that's the main thing. And with the amount of injuries that Man United have got at the moment, I think he'll start getting more minutes for Man United. And I was like, oh my God. I had to slam the pen down. I was like, this is the England manager who is meant to pick the creme de la creme of English players who are actually playing football and playing well. And he sat there going, feeling justified for picking Maguire for England because he played quite well and he now is going to get minutes for Man United because we've got an injury crisis. I mean, whoop-de-doo. I mean, this is meant to be elite football, national level, and he's going, I think he's going to get some game time because they've got loads of injuries. I mean, does he not think before he speaks? You're basically saying he's shit. You're basically saying, I think he's going to start playing for his club now because all the centre-backs are injured. I mean, it's like, I know he's trying to spin a positive, but you're actually saying it. You're actually exposing what the problem is. He can only play for United if we have an injury crisis. So, look, you know, I actually hope he doesn't play because I think Varane probably will be back soon, but that just shows you, you know, the lack of knowledge of Southgate. Varane probably will be back, maybe for Brighton, but I think Martinez and Lindelof certainly will be. McTominay was a striker in his academy days, says not now Dave. Wan-Bissaka was a winger. Do you reckon Sancho thought he had Ronaldo-level power in the media when he made this statement on 300k a week and acting like a girl, says Wadish, bit sexist. And Mark, I'm looking for a volunteer position at the United Stand. I've sent DMs and emails already, says Evil. I've not read him. Another toxic player, Maguire out, says Regista, and I really hope that was a bit fun. But I'm not the admin for the United Stand, so I wouldn't know. I know you feel like I am the United Stand, but bloody hell, I'd never stream if I was the admin or the Twitter or anything like that. So it's not been fed through to me. There are people that should be getting back in contact with you. So, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It wouldn't be me that would know about it, and it wouldn't be me that's snubbing you. But thanks for getting in contact. Robert says, do you think that if we could actually be active in the January window this year, if you do you think we're in for another Glazer special? Do you think that if we could actually be active in the January window? Don't know what that means, Robert. I don't think we'll be active in the January transfer window unless we've got new ownership. If you look at the debacle around Amrabat, we had to loan him and we barely could afford that. We've got no money. So the same thing happened in January last year. We need to do this, we need to do that. Gakpo, we wanted, signs for Liverpool. We're doing cheap loan deals for shit. So that was what happens in January, unless we sell somebody. And then potentially you can sell to buy. I'd rather play a youth centre-back and finish 7th than play Maguire, says Shahin. And always good to have a fridge, says Gareth. Especially in this weather, it's very, very warm. I think Ten Hag could play Casemiro and McTominay as a centre-back because we have Amrabat in midfield. I think that's a great point, Pickety. I would definitely... And Grant says, getting the government, what are you on about? What do you expect when you got the Muppets? And CEO Bridge says, Dortmund. I think that was something, going back to that comment there, I think that that's really interesting because I thought about that briefly against Arsenal. I was like, you could put Casemiro at centre-back, much better than Maguire. You could put McTominay at centre-back. I don't know whether he's better than Maguire, but we have got options. Alex says, I'm not looking forward for the game on Saturday, Mark. I am looking forward to it because I hate the international break, but yeah, sometimes you're better not playing. I know what you mean. It's going to be a very difficult game for us in the sense that I think they will give us, Brighton will be tough at home, and then Bayern Munich away they're a really good team, Bayern Munich. Last season, I think they were the best team I saw against Man City all year. It was just they didn't have a striker, and Upamecano was shit. So if they've sorted the defence out and Harry Kane's going to be the striker, I think Bayern will be very, very difficult. I mean, I'd probably take a draw now. But then you know what I'm like? I'm just like, these are the sort of games I love. I'm actually really excited about it because you want to play the best. That's what you want to do. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, of course, it's going to be difficult. No one's going to lie about that. The Brighton game, you know, I know it's still a few days away, but the Brighton game we've got to win. We're at home. We're Manchester United. And we've got to win that sort of a game. Whether we will or not, I still think... Look... We'll find a lot out this week, won't we? We'll find a lot out this week in relation to injuries and things like that. But and the Sancho situation tomorrow, of course. But look, Brighton will take care of itself. I'm more intrigued with what this week is going to bring. And, you know, keep your eyes peeled tomorrow because there will be something that comes out about Sancho. Alex, thank you very much. Right, anyway, I'm getting really hot. It's been really hot and I'm absolutely impressed that we've managed to make a 45-minute show out of not a lot going on. Do you watch Top Boy, says Harry? I do, thank you very much. Yeah, I do. But it's been a great show. You've been absolute legends as per usual. I think we've got Fabrizio on the show tomorrow, so I'm sure he'll have some inside info on a couple of things I want to ask him about anyway. And we're back into a normal week tomorrow, which is fantastic. Very excited about the podcast this week. You don't want to miss that out on Tuesday as well. But thanks, everyone. Nice to be back. Sunday night show, international break. I'm not going to lie to you. It's dry. It's drier than the desert at the moment. There's not a lot to talk about. And if we hadn't have had that Telegraph Ducker story, I think we would have been talking about our favourite colour. It's just regurgitated Sancho and Anthony stuff at the moment. And I'm not going to lie. It is what it is. But you're a great community. You always have been. You always will be. And as per usual, you come up with some great topics for us to discuss. Most of you want Pellistri to play on the right wing. I'm for that. Take care, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Go and get some rest or whatever. And I'll speak to you in a bit.